Marcus Chen had everything a man could want at 32. A thriving architecture firm, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and a marriage that seemed picture-perfect from the outside. His wife, Elena, was a social media influencer with 500,000 followers who adored her bubbly personality and seemingly perfect life. And then there was Derek, his best friend since college, his business partner, and the brother he never had. The three of them were inseparable. Weekend barbecues, couples trips, late-night gaming sessions. They were the trio everyone envied. Marcus trusted them both completely, which made what happened next all the more devastating. It started innocently enough, or so Elena would later claim. She was scrolling through TikTok one evening, laughing at a video where a woman pranked her boyfriend by pretending to cheat. "These are so funny," she said, showing Marcus. "People get so dramatic over fake scenarios." Marcus barely looked up from his blueprints. Fake drama for real views. That's the internet for you. But the seed was planted. Elena, always chasing engagement and the next viral moment, began to obsess over the idea. Her analytics were down, sponsorships were drying up, and she needed something big, something shocking to get people talking again. A week later, she met Derek for coffee while Marcus was at a construction site. "I have the craziest idea," she said, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "What if we pranked Marcus? Made him think something happened between us?" Derek stirred his espresso slowly, his expression unreadable. "That's pretty extreme, Elena, but think about it. We film his reaction, I post it with the reveal, it goes viral. Everyone loves a good twist ending. And Marcus will laugh about it once he knows it's fake." She reached across the table, touching Derek's hand. "Come on, it'll be harmless fun. Plus, you know how chill Marcus is. He'll totally get the joke." What Elena didn't know was that Derek had been in love with her for 3 years, since the night before her wedding, when she drunkenly kissed him and apologized the next morning, saying it meant nothing. He'd buried those feelings deep, played the loyal friend, but they'd never truly died. This prank was an opportunity, a door opening to something he'd only dreamed about. "All right," he said finally, his voice careful, "but we need to make it believable. Half-assed won't work." They planned meticulously. Elena would accidentally post a photo that suggested intimacy, Derek's watch visible in frame on her nightstand, taken at an angle that implied someone was in bed with her. They'd exchange some flirty texts that Marcus might discover. Nothing explicit, but enough to plant doubt. The night they executed the plan, Marcus was supposed to be out of town at a conference. But his keynote speech was canceled last minute and he came home early, walking through the door at 10 p.m. instead of the next afternoon. He found Elena on the couch, phone in hand, wearing one of Derek's hoodies, a detail they'd added for authenticity. She looked up, startled, guilt flashing across her face before she could control it. "Marcus, you're home early." Conference got canceled. His eyes fell to the hoodie. "Is that Derek's?" "Oh, this? Yeah, I was cold and he left it here last game night." Her voice trailed off as she realized how weak it sounded. Marcus's expression shifted, not to anger, but to something worse. Hurt. "Your phone keeps lighting up. Derek's been texting you." Before she could respond, his own phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged him in a post. His blood ran cold as he opened it. A screenshot of Elena's deleted story, the one she'd posted for exactly 8 seconds before removing it, showing Derek's watch on her nightstand with the caption, "Some mistakes are worth making." The screenshot had been captured by a follower and was spreading like wildfire. "Marcus, wait." Elena stood, reaching for him, but he was already reading the comments. Hundreds of them. Strangers dissecting his life, calling him a fool, sharing the post across platforms. His hands trembled as he looked at his wife, really looked at her and saw something he'd never seen before. Calculation. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Elena? Explain it to me." And in that moment, as she scrambled for words, Derek's car pulled into the driveway. Marcus could see the headlights through the window, and something inside him shattered. The prank had begun, but nobody was laughing. Derek walked into the house with his spare key, stopping dead when he saw Marcus standing in the living room. The air was thick with tension, Elena frozen between the two men like a deer in headlights. "Marcus, hey man, didn't expect you back until tomorrow." Derek's voice was too casual, rehearsed. Marcus held up his phone. showing the screenshot that was now being shared thousands of times. Want to explain this? Because Elena seems to be having trouble finding the words. Derek glanced at Elena, and in that brief exchange, Marcus saw something he'd missed for years, a familiarity, an understanding that went beyond friendship. His stomach turned. "It's a prank," Elena blurted out, her voice desperate. "Baby, it's just a stupid prank for content. We were going to reveal it tomorrow. It's not real, none of it is real." Marcus looked between them, his architect's mind trained to see structural weaknesses, suddenly identifying all the cracks in his foundation. "A prank? You thought destroying my reputation, making me look like an idiot in front of hundreds of thousands of people would be funny? We were going to post the reveal right away," Derek added, but his voice lacked conviction. "Show everyone it was fake. The engagement would have been incredible." "Engagement?" Marcus's laugh was bitter. "My firm just landed the Morrison contract. Do you know who the Morrisons are? Conservative, family values-obsessed clients worth $20 million. And now my wife is trending on social media as an adulteress, with my business partner as her affair partner." Elena's face went pale. She hadn't thought about his business. She never thought about consequences, only content. Marcus's phone rang, his father, then his sister, then his business attorney. He declined them all, watching the notifications pile up. News outlets were picking up the story. "Local architect's wife caught in cheating scandal," read one headline. Someone had identified him, connected the dots, and now his professional life was imploding alongside his personal one. "Marcus, please." Elena reached for him, tears streaming down her face. "I'll post the explanation right now. I'll fix this," but Derek stepped forward, and something in his posture had changed. The apologetic friend was gone, replaced by someone Marcus didn't recognize. "Maybe we should let things settle before posting anything else." "The algorithm! Fuck the algorithm!" Marcus roared, his composure finally breaking. "This is my life, Derek. Our life." He turned to Elena. "Or did that stop mattering when you decided views were more important than vows?" Elena was sobbing now, fumbling with her phone to draft a post. But as she typed, more notifications flooded in. Someone had leaked screenshots of texts between her and Derek. Messages planning the prank, yes, but also messages from weeks before. Flirty exchanges, inside jokes. A level of emotional intimacy that crossed lines neither had admitted to crossing. Where did these come from? Elena whispered, staring at her phone in horror. Messages she'd deleted, conversations she thought were private, all exposed. Derek's face went carefully blank. Someone must have hacked your account, but Marcus was already piecing it together. How did they get deleted messages, Derek? How did screenshots of your private texts end up public unless someone saved them? Unless someone wanted them public? The realization hit Elena at the same moment. She turned to Derek, her eyes wide. "You said you deleted everything." "You promised." "I did," Derek said too quickly. "This is just—" "You backed them up," Marcus stated, his voice eerily calm. "You kept receipts of your own prank. Why would you do that unless—" He stopped, the final piece clicking into place. "Unless this wasn't entirely a prank for you." The silence that followed was deafening. Derek's jaw tightened, and for a moment his mask slipped. Marcus saw it. The hunger, the jealousy, the years of wanting what wasn't his. "Get out," Marcus said quietly. "Both of you, get out of my house." "Marcus, this is my house too," Elena started. "Our house," he corrected. "Which means I have every right to ask you to leave. I need space, and I need it now." Elena looked to Derek for support, but he was already backing toward the door, his expression unreadable. "Let's give him time to cool off. We can talk tomorrow when everyone's calmer." But Marcus wasn't looking at Derek anymore. He was looking at Elena, really seeing her for the first time in years. The woman who'd valued virality over his dignity, who'd weaponized his trust for content, who'd been emotionally intimate with his best friend and called it a joke. "Tomorrow? You'll be hearing from my attorney," Marcus said. "Tonight I want you gone." As Elena grabbed her purse with shaking hands, her phone buzzed one more time. The Morrison Corporation had released a statement. "In light of recent events, we've decided to reassess our partnership with Chen and Associates. $20 million gone because of a prank." Marcus watched them leave, his wife and his best friend, and felt nothing but emptiness where his trust used to be. He sat in the dark living room listening to Derek's car pull away, and finally let himself break. But even in his grief, his mind was working, processing, preparing. If they wanted to play games with his life, he'd show them what happened when you pushed an architect into a corner. He'd build his case brick by brick until the foundation of their lies collapsed under the weight of truth. 3 days after the prank imploded, Elena was living in a hotel room, her phone blowing up with message requests from strangers. Journalists and former sponsors dropping her one by one. Her follower count had actually increased, disaster tourism at its finest, but her reputation was in ruins. Every post, every comment section was filled with people calling her a homewrecker, a manipulator, a terrible wife. She'd posted the explanation video the morning after, tearfully revealing it was just a prank gone wrong, but the internet was unforgiving. People didn't want the truth. They wanted the drama. And now she was paying the price. Marcus had been radio silent. His attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Holloway, had sent divorce papers within 48 hours. Irreconcilable differences, it claimed. But Elena knew the real reason was spelled out in every screenshot, every headline, every leaked message that painted her as something she wasn't. Or was she? Late at night, alone in her sterile hotel room, Elena was forced to confront uncomfortable truths. The texts with Derek had been flirty. When had that started? The emotional intimacy Marcus had mentioned. Had she really crossed that line without realizing it? Her phone buzzed. "Derek, we need to talk. My place, 1 hour." She should have said no, should have recognized the red flags that had been there all along. But Derek was the only person who understood what she was going through. The only one who didn't judge her, or so she thought. Derek's apartment was upscale, modern. He'd done well for himself since becoming Marcus's partner. When Elena arrived, he had wine poured, music playing softly. It felt too intimate, too staged. "How are you holding up?" he asked, handing her a glass. "How do you think?" "I've lost everything. My marriage, my career, my reputation." She sank onto his couch. "Marcus won't return my calls. His family has blocked me on everything. I'm alone, Derek." He sat beside her, closer than necessary. "You're not alone. You have me." Something in his tone made her skin prickle. "Derek, about those messages that leaked. Marcus was right, wasn't he? You kept them. You backed them up before we agreed to delete everything." Derek's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Insurance. I thought we might need proof it was a prank." "Proof? You leaked them, didn't you?" Elena stood, the pieces finally falling into place. "You wanted this to happen. You wanted Marcus to see those texts, wanted him to doubt me, wanted—" She stopped, horror dawning. "Oh my God. You wanted to destroy my marriage." Derek stood too, blocking her path to the door. His expression had changed, the mask of the concerned friend finally dropping completely. "I wanted you to see what I've always seen. That Marcus doesn't appreciate you. He's married to his work, his precious buildings. I see you, Elena. I've always seen you." "You're insane," she whispered, backing away. "This was supposed to be harmless. You helped me plan a prank and now you're—" "What? Trying to make it real?" "It was always real for me." He moved closer. "That night before your wedding, when you kissed me, you felt it too." "I know you did. I was drunk." "It was a mistake." "Was it?" His voice was soft, dangerous. "Or was it the truth you were too afraid to admit? That you married the wrong man?" Elena reached for the door handle, but Derek's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to control. "Let me go," she said, her voice shaking. "Stay, just for tonight. Let me show you what you've been missing." She yanked her arm free, her heart pounding. "I'm leaving. This, whatever you think this is, it's not happening." But as she grabbed the door, Derek's voice stopped her cold. "You might want to see this first." He held up his phone, playing a video. Elena's stomach dropped. It was her in Derek's apartment from 2 weeks ago during one of their planning sessions for the prank. But the audio had been edited, her words clipped and rearranged. In the video, it sounded like she was planning an affair, not a joke. Like she was in love with Derek, conspiring to leave Marcus. "That's not—" "You edited that. That's not what I said." "Doesn't matter what you actually said," Derek replied, his voice chillingly calm. "It matters what it sounds like, what it looks like. I have hours of footage, Elena. Hours of you in my apartment, drinking wine, laughing, touching my arm. All completely innocent, but context is everything, isn't it?" Elena felt like she was drowning. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I'm giving you a choice." He stepped closer, his voice soft. "Option 1, you stay with me. Tonight and every night after. You let me love you the way Marcus never could. We tell everyone the prank revealed real feelings that you're with me now. Your followers will eat it up. The dramatic twist, the real romance born from scandal. I'll help you rebuild your brand better than before. And option 2? His smile was cruel. I release all the footage. Not just to social media, to Marcus's attorneys. To the press. I'll testify in the divorce that you seduced me. That this was never a prank, that you've been having an affair for months. Marcus will take you for everything. The house, the assets, your reputation, whatever's left of it. You'll be the villain in your own story. And I'll be the victim you manipulated. Elena's legs gave out and she collapsed onto the couch. This couldn't be happening. Marcus will never believe you. He knows you, trusts you. Trusted me, Derek corrected. Past tense. Right now he's angry at both of us. But if I come forward, play the guilt-ridden friend who was manipulated by his seductive wife, I become sympathetic. I get to keep my partnership, my reputation, and you get destroyed. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a future. With me, you're reborn. A phoenix rising from the ashes of a failed marriage. Against me, you're just ashes. Elena's mind raced. She could go to the police, but what crime had he committed? Keeping videos of their meetings. Editing footage. He'd been careful, she realized. So careful. The wine he'd given her tonight, had he been planning to drug her? Record something worse? She stood on shaking legs. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. Derek opened the door for her. Every inch the gentleman. Choose wisely, Elena. Choose me, or choose ruin. As she left his apartment, Elena realized she'd been a fool in more ways than one. She'd thought she was orchestrating a harmless prank. But Derek had been playing a different game entirely, one where she was never the player, only the prize. She sat in her car, hands trembling on the steering wheel, and made a decision. She pulled out her phone and dialed the one person she'd never thought she'd call for help. Patricia Holloway's office. Hi, this is Elena Chen. I need to speak to Mrs. Holloway about my husband's divorce proceedings. I have information about Derek Morrison and I think I'm in danger. The game had changed. Derek wanted to play dirty? Fine. But he'd underestimated one thing. A woman with nothing left to lose was far more dangerous than a woman with something to protect. 2 months later, the Oak County courthouse was packed. What had started as a simple divorce case had exploded into something far more sinister. Blackmail charges against Derek Morrison, with Elena Chen as the star witness for the prosecution. Marcus sat in the plaintiff's section, his face an unreadable mask. He'd aged in these 2 months, new lines around his eyes, gray touching his temples, but there was a strength to him that hadn't been there before. He'd lost weight, gained focus, and rebuilt his firm from the ground up after the Morrison scandal almost destroyed it. Patricia Holloway had worked miracles. When Elena came forward with her blackmail story, Patricia had immediately involved law enforcement. They'd wired Elena for her next meeting with Derek, capturing everything, his threats, his manipulations, his confession that he'd orchestrated the entire prank's escalation from the beginning. Derek sat across the aisle with his own attorney, his confidence from months ago replaced with barely concealed panic. The edited videos he'd threatened Elena with had been forensically analyzed and proven to be manipulated. His insurance had become evidence of his crime, but the civil case, Marcus's divorce, was being heard first, and it was brutal. Mr. Chen, Derek's attorney, a slick man named Robert Vance, stood during cross-examination. Isn't it true that you were neglecting your wife? That you spent more time on work than on your marriage? Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. I worked hard to provide for our life, but I never neglected her. I came home every night. We had date nights, vacations, time together, until she decided our marriage was worth less than internet clout. But you must have suspected something was wrong. I trusted my wife and my best friend, Marcus interrupted, his voice hardening. Apparently that was my mistake. Not neglect, trust, Patricia stood. Objection. Mr. Morrison's marital attentiveness isn't on trial here. His wife's collaboration with the defendant in a scheme that destroyed his reputation, cost him a $20 million contract, and violated his trust. That's what we're here to address. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Carolyn Wright, nodded. Sustained. Mr. Vance, move on. When Elena took the stand, the courtroom fell silent. She'd changed too. No more influencer polish, no perfect makeup and styled hair. She looked small, real, scared. "Mrs. Chen," Patricia began gently, "tell the court how this prank came to be." Elena's voice shook as she spoke. "I was desperate for engagement. My numbers were falling, sponsors were leaving. I saw a trend on social media, couples pranking each other, and I thought it would be harmless. Just a quick video showing Marcus's reaction, then the reveal, everyone laughs. And Derek Morrison? How did he become involved? I approached him because he was Marcus's best friend. I thought it would be more believable, more shocking. He agreed, but..." She paused, tears welling. "But I was so focused on the content I didn't see what he was really doing. The planning sessions that went too long. The way he'd text me constantly. How he'd touch my hand and make it seem casual. I thought he was helping me. I didn't realize he was grooming me." "Grooming you for what?" "To leave my husband. To become dependent on him." Elena looked directly at Derek, who stared back coldly. "After everything exploded when I was at my lowest, he revealed his true intentions. He told me he'd been in love with me for years, that he'd helped me with the prank specifically to destroy my marriage. And when I tried to walk away, he blackmailed me with edited footage, threatening to make me look even worse if I didn't. If I didn't be with him," Vance stood. "Objection. This is speculation. Mrs. Chen is trying to deflect responsibility for her own actions." "The prosecution has recordings," Patricia interjected, nodding to the bailiff who loaded an audio file. "This was recorded 2 weeks after the initial incident with police cooperation." Derek's voice filled the courtroom. "Choose me, or choose ruin. I have hours of footage, Elena. Hours of you in my apartment. I'll testify in the divorce that you seduced me, that this was never a prank." The courtroom erupted. Judge Wright banged her gavel. "Order." Marcus closed his eyes, hearing his former best friend's betrayal laid bare. Part of him wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly he just felt tired. Tired of the lies, the manipulation, the games. "Mr. Chen," the judge addressed him during his testimony, "what are you seeking in this divorce?" Marcus looked at Elena, really looked at her. She was crying silently, her hands twisted in her lap. He could see the regret, the fear, the realization of how badly she'd been used. Part of him, the part that had loved her for 7 years, wanted to forgive her. But a larger part knew that trust, once shattered, couldn't be glued back together. "I want my dignity back," he said finally. "I want the truth on record. I want Derek Morrison to face consequences for his manipulation and blackmail. As for assets," he paused, "I'll be fair. She made a catastrophic mistake, but she was also manipulated by someone we both trusted. I'll split our shared assets equitably. But I want the house, the one I designed, the one that was supposed to be our forever home. And I want my peace." Elena sobbed openly, and even Patricia looked surprised. Vance started to object. His client wanted Marcus to go for blood, to demand everything, to make Elena look worse, but Marcus cut him off. "And I want this on record. My wife made a terrible choice. She valued fame over family. But Derek Morrison is a predator. He planned this, manipulated both of us, and tried to destroy lives for his own gain. Don't let him hide behind her mistakes." The criminal proceedings began the following week. Derek was charged with attempted extortion, harassment, and computer crimes related to his editing and manipulation of footage. The evidence was overwhelming: the recordings, the forensic analysis, Elena's testimony, and even messages Patricia's team had uncovered between Derek and a friend, where he'd explicitly stated his plan to win Elena away from Marcus by any means necessary. On the stand, Derek tried to maintain his innocence. "I loved her. Everything I did was because I loved her." "Love doesn't blackmail," Patricia countered during cross-examination. "Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't orchestrate the destruction of someone's life for personal gain. What you did wasn't love, Mr. Morrison. It was obsession, control, and criminal behavior." The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Derek Morrison was found guilty on all counts. As he was led away, he looked at Marcus one last time. "I would have been better for her than you." Marcus didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. 6 months after the trial, Marcus stood in the house he'd fought to keep, the house he'd designed with dreams of forever, now a monument to lessons learned. The divorce was finalized. Elena had moved across the country to start fresh away from the scandal, and Derek was serving 2 years in prison with 3 years probation to follow. Marcus had won everything. The legal battles, the moral high ground, his reputation gradually rebuilding. But victory felt hollow in the quiet moments when the house was too big and too silent. His phone buzzed. A message from his sister, Claire. "Stop hiding in that house. Dinner tonight, my place, 7 p.m. I'm not asking." He smiled despite himself. Claire had been his rock through everything. Showing up when he couldn't get out of bed, forcing him to eat when food tasted like ash, reminding him that he was worthy of better than what he'd received. At dinner, surrounded by Claire's chaotic, loving family, her husband burning garlic bread while their kids argued over a board game, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in months. Lightness. "You seem different," Claire observed, pouring him wine. "Better. I'm getting there." He watched her kids, feeling a pang for the family he'd thought he'd have. "Some days are harder than others, that's normal. You went through trauma, Marcus. Betrayal from the two people you trusted most. That doesn't just heal overnight." She squeezed his hand. "But you're healing." "I can see it," he nodded, swirling his wine. "I've been thinking about what Patricia said after the trial. About how sometimes we love people for who we think they are, not who they actually are. I was in love with the idea of Elena. The version of her I'd constructed in my head. The real Elena? The one who could sacrifice our marriage for likes and follows? I'm not sure I ever really knew her." "And Derek?" Marcus's expression hardened. "I trusted him because we had history. But looking back, there were signs. The way he'd make comments about Elena, supposedly joking. How he'd volunteer to check on her when I was traveling. How he always wanted to be around us like he was waiting for an opening. I just didn't want to see it. You're not psychic, Mark. You're just a decent person who assumed others were decent too. That's not a flaw." Later that night, back in his house, Marcus sat in his home office, the one room Elena had never bothered to decorate, leaving it purely his. He opened his laptop and began scrolling through messages from the past weeks. Apologies from former clients who'd abandoned him during the scandal, friends who distanced themselves, now awkwardly reaching out. Even a few hateful messages from internet strangers who still believed the worst. And then, buried among them, an email from Elena. He'd blocked her number but hadn't thought to block her email. His finger hovered over delete, but something made him open it. "Marcus, I know I have no right to contact you. I know sorry doesn't begin to cover what I did, what I destroyed. But I need you to know I was an idiot. A selfish, shallow idiot who thought clicks mattered more than commitment. Who let ego and desperation override every value you tried to teach me. The trial, the testimony, having to admit publicly that I'd been manipulated. Part of me wanted to hate you for putting me through that. But you were right. Derek was a predator and I was too blind to see it. Too focused on myself to notice that my husband's best friend was playing a long game to steal me away. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy. Not the kind I used to post about for content. I'm learning about boundaries, about self-worth that doesn't come from external validation. About the difference between who I projected online and who I actually am. It's hard, humiliating sometimes, but necessary. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know. You were the best thing that ever happened to me and I threw it away. Not for Derek. I never wanted Derek. I threw it away for numbers on a screen, for strangers' approval, for a version of fame that meant nothing. I hope you find someone who deserves you. Someone who sees your quiet strength and appreciates it instead of resenting it. Someone who would rather have your trust than the whole world's attention. I hope you find peace, Marcus. Real peace. The kind I destroyed, I'm sorry. For everything. Marcus read it twice, then a third time. He waited for anger, for the rush of vindication or the urge to reply with everything she'd cost him. But instead he felt release. He closed the laptop without responding. Elena's journey to redemption, if that's what this was, wasn't his responsibility. Her healing wasn't his burden. She'd made her choices, faced the consequences, and now had to live with them, just as he had to live with his. The difference was his choices had been made with love and trust. Hers had been made with vanity and greed. The scales were not balanced, and they never would be. 3 weeks later, Marcus was at a coffee shop downtown, sketching a design for a community center project, when someone slid into the chair across from him. "This seat taken?" He looked up, ready to politely decline, and found himself staring at a woman about his age with paint-stained fingers and a warm smile. I'm Zoe. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I overheard you talking to the barista about the Morrison building downtown. The one you designed? I work for the restoration company that's renovating the interior. Your work is brilliant. They talked for 2 hours. About architecture and art, about craftsmanship and creativity, about everything and nothing. When she left, she'd given him her number with an easy, "Call me if you want to talk more about buildings." Or coffee. Or both. Marcus looked at the napkin with her number, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. That night, standing on his back porch, looking at the city lights in the distance, Marcus thought about everything he'd lost. His wife, his best friend, his naivety, his ability to trust blindly. The Morrison contract, time, peace of mind, but he'd gained something too. Clarity, strength, the knowledge that he could survive devastation and come out the other side. The understanding that he deserved better than people who viewed him as an accessory to their own stories. His phone buzzed. Claire, checking in like she did every night. "You okay?" "Yeah," he typed back. "Actually, I think I am." And for the first time in months, it was true. The prank had ended in court, in scandal, in everything falling apart. But from those ashes, Marcus Chen was rebuilding. Not just his firm or his reputation, but himself. Better boundaries. Clearer vision. A future unmarred by people who didn't value what he brought to their lives. "I lost a wife and a friend," he said quietly to the night air, repeating the words he'd told the judge that final day. "But I found my peace." And in the morning, he'd call Zoe. He'd take a chance on coffee and conversation. He'd let himself believe again, carefully this time, with eyes wide open, because the alternative, closing himself off, letting Derek and Elena's betrayal define the rest of his life, would mean they'd won, and Marcus Chen didn't lose. Not in the end. Not where it counted. He walked back inside, leaving the door open for a moment, letting the cool night breeze clear the last remnants of the past from his home. Then he closed it firmly, locked it, and moved forward, into whatever came next.